I'm ready.
Hello everyone, welcome to Mommy Mentions. I'm Ashley.
And I'm Janice.
And once again, we are Mommy Mentions.
And if you are new to our YouTube channel, please make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell, and share.
Also, you can follow us on Instagram at mommy.mentions, and the same thing for Twitter. I believe it is mommy.mentions as well, correct?
Nope. Twitter is Mommy Mentions.
Oh, it's Mommy Mentions.
So you can follow us on Twitter at Mommy Mentions.
All right, those are all of our social medias as of right now. This is our second episode. So we are actually going to get into it as far as our labor and
delivery.
Well, we kind of actually could back up a little bit and actually kind of talk about since COVID hit.
Right, labor and delivery during COVID.
Right, but then also like leading up, like how baby showers and all that stuff, how we had to handle that.
Yeah.
As far as that goes, kind of give a little background too. You know? So then, because obviously it was different.
Right.
For us.
Right. So I was due May 5th, and May 5th, 2020. So it was like the start of COVID was when I was like pregnant. So I didn't get to have a baby shower. I ended up just putting my registry information on social media, and I had sent out an invitation for a baby shower, but it didn't happen. It was too many people, like the halls, people that own like the halls and stuff. They were more like, oh, well, how many people are you gonna have, and are they gonna have masks? And it went from that to being like, oh no, we're just not gonna do it at all. We're not.
I think that's when it went to like a strict shutdown. Like,
right.
Right.
That was the first shutdown. Right.
Uh-huh.
So I ended up just having people like send me stuff through Amazon, mailing it, emailing gift cards, dropping stuff off at the door. This was before the drive-by phase too, when people would be like, oh yeah, drive-by baby shower, drive-by
for birthday parties.
Right, yeah, birthday parties. This was before that. No one was even thinking about that.
Right.
So I didn't get to have a baby shower, which kind of sucked because it's my first kid. You know,
right.
I wanted the whole experience. What else? No baby shower. I was gonna do a sip and see.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
So for those of you that don't know what a sip and see is, it's basically like a party for after the baby's born, when people can come see the baby from a distance, and just like, you know, socialize and stuff like that. I didn't get to have that because it was just I was too like, oh, she's a newborn, I don't want people around her like that. So, which, you know, is understandable in general, but during COVID it's even more understandable. So I didn't get to do that. Really, I didn't really get to do anything. I didn't get to have the full experience at all, and it sucked. Like, I was depressed for a while because that's what I wanted. I was planning my baby shower. I didn't even care if like the person that I chose to host it paid for everything, because that's how it's supposed to be. Like, whoever asks to do the baby shower is supposed to like pay for this, pay for that, and I was like, I don't care. I'll pay for everything. Doesn't matter. That's what I wanted. Didn't get to do it, so it kind of sucked. But I mean, in the end, I got everything that she needed. Well, I was given everything that she needed.
Right.
And then if I didn't we went back and was like, okay, what she need? We'll just go ahead and get it. But gift cards came in handy. I'll tell you that much.
Big time.
Gift cards. She had like over $200 in Target gift cards, and I was like, yes, thank you, Jesus. But yeah, no, it helped. But I don't know. It just kind of sucked that I didn't get to do everything. I did get to do a photo shoot. I got to do my maternity shoot. My friend volunteered to take our pictures, and they came out great.
Yeah, they're super cute.
They came out so nice. So that was one thing that I enjoyed. That was cool for me. So, but as far as labor, so I didn't get to do anything while I was pregnant. I was off of work for 5 months, and didn't get to go anywhere because
that's the part that sucks.
Because of COVID. And I was like, I really had a vacation from work for 5 months and I didn't get to do nothing. I was in the house. Mm-hmm. I think no, I didn't even get to go out of town. I was just in the house all the time. I think my outing was like going to the store and getting toilet paper and paper towels and finding Lysol wipes. It was crazy. But so my labor and delivery, okay. So I technically went into labor on Thursday. That's when I started having contractions. So it was 3 days before Mother's Day. I went into labor Thursday. I didn't know what was going on. I was just like on the phone with my best friend, and every couple minutes I was like, ooh, ah.
And how far along were you at this point?
I was 40 weeks and no, I'm sorry. I was 39 weeks and a couple days.
Okay, so you were already past.
I was already past my due date.
Okay.
So, she was well past her due date. So that happened Thursday. Friday, I called my sister-in-law because she is a practicing doula or midwife. And I was like, hey, I don't know what's going on, but my stomach keeps getting really tight and it hurts. And I didn't have, mind you, I didn't have Braxton Hicks, like nothing. So I didn't know. And she was like, do they feel like contractions? I said, how am I supposed to know what contractions feel like? I don't know. And she was like, okay, well, does it feel like period cramps? And I was like, yes, they feel like really intense period cramps. She was like, okay, you are in labor. And I was like, well, it's been happening since Thursday. My job called her Friday. So
a whole day done passed.
A whole day done passed. And my best friend told me, she's like, you're in labor. And I was like, no, I'm not. I just ate something spicy.
You just doesn't
I really did. Like, I was like, no. I was in denial. Because in reality, I was like, I can't push this baby out. So, right. So, Friday comes and my sister-in-law was like, okay, well, we're going to walk. And you're going to walk around the neighborhood and drink some water. Matter of fact, I'm sorry. My mom called my sister-in-law. And she was like, your sister thinks she might be in labor, but she's denying it. And I keep telling her. Anyway, so she comes to the house. We walk around the neighborhood and she makes me drink water. And she's like, if we walk and you drink water and they stop, then they're Braxton Hicks. If they keep going, then you're actually in labor. So then found out I'm actually in labor. So she's teaching me how to breathe because I didn't get to do Lamaze classes. Right. Signed up for those. Couldn't do those. She's telling me how to breathe and how to not tense up. So I used to make like the face. I would just be like, and she's like, no, don't tense up because then everything tenses. Even if it's just in your face, your whole body will tense. Okay. So I got better with that, and it was just like every time I got a contraction, I was just trying to think happy thoughts. Right. So Saturday was actually my grandmother's funeral. So it went from Friday to Saturday. She slept over the house, all that good stuff. And I was like, well, am I going to be able to go to grandma's funeral? Because I really don't want to miss it. And she was like, yeah, you should be able to. Like, I don't think you're dilated. You should be fine. So we go, and I'm contracting during the whole funeral, like the whole thing, contracting at the burial site, like everything. And I'm just like the whole time I'm tensing up, and then she's like, breathe. So I breathe. And then so fast forward to Saturday night, after the funeral, after the repast. This part was kind of funny because I was tripping. So they were getting it more intense, and she wanted me to go to sleep because she didn't know when I was going to need to go to the hospital, but I couldn't really sleep. Okay. So she was like, here, she left out of the room, brought me some water, right? So I drank the water, and next thing I know, I'm knocked out. So I wake up a couple hours later, and she was like, oh, how'd you sleep? And she's sitting at the bedside the whole time. She's like, how'd you sleep? And I was like, oh, I slept good. I was like, was I contracting? Like, did I stop? Were they Braxton Hicks? She was like, no, I put Benadryl in your water so that way you can sleep. because I didn't know if you were gonna go into labor, like labor. And I was like, you drugged me? She was like, it's okay. It's perfectly okay. You can have Benadryl. It was perfectly okay. And I was like, but was I contracting? She was like, yeah, in your sleep. She was like, but you stayed asleep. And I was like, and I feel so refreshed. And she was like, really? I was like, yeah. And she was like, see, that's what you needed. So that was Saturday night. Sunday, I'm still, so mind you, I've been in labor since Thursday. Okay. So Sunday, it was Mother's Day. So my boyfriend brought me Mother's Day, like flowers and card and candy and all that stuff. It was so cute because I was like, I'm not even a mom yet. And he was like, yes, you are. Like, baby's not here, but you're still a mom. So a little bit after that, my sister-in-law and my mom were like, well, let's get you walking. Let's go walking. So we walked at Winco. We just walked around Winco. And I remember saying I needed to use the restroom. I was like, I have to pee. And they were like, okay, like, we'll find a bathroom at Winco. We get there, and I forget that I have to use the bathroom. So we're walking around. As soon as we get in the car, mind you, I hadn't used the restroom. So my bladder is full, and I forgot.
Right.
So as soon as we get in the car to leave, my contractions got so bad, I started crying. Like, I was like, oh, God, the baby's going to come. Like, that's how bad they were. So, we had to pull over in a random parking lot. It was like a veterinary hospital. We pulled over in a random parking lot, and I had to get out the car. Like, mind you, I slid in the car sideways in the back seat because I couldn't get in regular. Like, that's how bad it hurt. So they got me out, and I'm just like I couldn't stand. Like, it was bad. So they, my boyfriend's house was on the way home, to my parents' house. So they call him, and they're like, Janice is like, she has to use the bathroom. Like, this is why this is what's going on. She has to use the bathroom. He, comes out, and he's like, do I pick her up? And they're like, grab her. So, he, slides me out the car, grabs me, picks me up, and, runs into the house. And I use the bathroom, and I'm perfectly fine after that. It was bad. It was bad.
It was full.
Now, the contractions was still, going, but they weren't as intense after I used the restroom. So y'all keep in mind, if you ever have to use the bathroom and you're contracting, use the bathroom. Don't hold it. Don't
even hold it when you're pregnant.
Yeah, don't hold it when you're pregnant. Yes, because you're gonna mess yourself up. You're gonna mess yourself up. So anyway, a couple hours, an hour goes by, and I finally eat something, and then I'm on the phone with my niece. She lives in Delaware, and I'm sitting on the couch, sitting on my parents' couch. All of a sudden, I was like, uh-oh. I feel this big old gush. I was like, sis, I think my water broke. She said, well, what does it feel like? I said, feels like I peed on myself, but not really like I peed on myself, but I don't know. And she was like, yeah. I was like, it's not dry down there no more. So she was like, yep, your water broke. So she was like, well, go to the bathroom, make sure it's not just the rest of your mucus plug. All right, cool. Go, and I was like, nah, my water broke. And she was like, okay. So I called my boyfriend. He was like, well, what are we supposed to do? What are we doing? She was like, well, we'll wait an hour or two and see. Because originally I didn't want to go to the hospital because of COVID. Right. I didn't want to go give birth in the hospital. And her being that she had actually already delivered babies before, I was like, well, we can just do it at the house. That was just me. Dumb. I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know. So...
it's all right. COVID had people messed up.
It's
all right.
Completely, I don't know. Anyway, so a couple hours, she tells me to take a shower and all that stuff. So I had time to take a shower, make sure my bags were packed completely.
Yeah.
And so we call him, and she's like, she's not really progressing like she should since her water broke. So just come get her and take her to the hospital. That's my baby in the background. So he comes and gets me. We go to the hospital. Now, this part sucked. They did my vitals, but I was up there by myself. They were like, he can't come up there until you get a room, and you don't have a room, so he's going to have to wait. So I'm up there by myself. They're doing my vitals. They do the little strip thing to make sure that it was my water that broke. And he didn't wheel me up. Some random nurse wheeled me up to the floor. And so I think I waited an hour or two or something like that. I was like, make sure you go eat, because they were telling us that he can't leave the room and come back in. He couldn't leave, like the cafeteria was closed. He couldn't leave to go get food and then come back into my room. So fast forward to me being in the room. All my nurses, I just have to say, all my nurses were cool. All my nurses were very helpful. They let him come into the room. We get everything situated. And I I had to, get in my robe and all that good stuff. So it was a challenge because he had never like been there before. Like neither one of us has been in that situation. Yeah. Right. So I'm telling him like, make sure you ask questions, especially if I can't talk or communicate or whatever the case may be. And I told him from jump, I was like, I don't want any medication. I don't want anything. I was like, I don't want no epidural. I can do this. People before have done this. They didn't have no drugs back in the day. And he was like, okay, if that's what you want, babe, like, that's cool. I got you. Like, I'm going to tell him no. He was like, if you ask for it, I'm going to tell him no. And I'm going to remind you. I said, okay, remind me. So, mind you, I went into the hospital Sunday at around 6. My water broke at like 4. So I went into the hospital around 6. And they're just monitoring me and all that stuff. And then Monday, I'm not really progressing like I should as far as my contractions being strong enough, like continuously strong enough. So they'd be strong and then they go down. They'd be strong and then go down. And
now, were you dilated at all?
I was dilated, like, I think I was only 1 centimeter when I got there on Sunday.
Okay.
And then on Monday, I was like 3 centimeters, like in the morning. So I really hadn't progressed at all.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. So, where was I? Sorry. So mind you, I hadn't eaten since Sunday around 2. So I was like, I'm hungry. I know I'm not supposed to eat. So I asked my nurse. She was this black lady. She was really cool. I was like, hey, like, you think I can get some Jello? You think I can get a popsicle? Like something that's like solid but liquid? And she was like, yeah, I'm gonna try to find you a popsicle. So she found me a Lorosa popsicle. And I was like, oh, thank you so much. So I'm eating it. And then all of a sudden, like, I'm contracting a little bit more. And she's like, let me know if you feel pressure or whatever. I was like, okay. So the doctor that was supposed to deliver Gia, she was basically telling me like, hey, I'm not gonna be here later, like, we need to get you going, blah blah blah. And I was like, okay, well, what do I need to do? Because she was like, you're not progressing like you should, and you've been open for too long because your water broke. And I was like, okay. So she ended up telling me that I needed to take Pitocin.
Okay.
Ma'am, that is like the worst drug ever, I promise you. And I'm not trying to scare nobody, but my experience with that was terrible. I couldn't talk. Like, they put it in the IV, and she was like, oh, it's gonna take like 15 minutes to kick in. It kicked in as soon as it hit my bloodstream. Like, as soon as she put it in the IV. And it hurt so bad, I couldn't talk. It hurt to breathe. It hurt to lay down. It hurt to sit up. Like, it was bad. And I'm on the phone with my parents, and he's like holding me. My boyfriend's holding me, and I'm on the phone with my parents, like crying. It hurt to cry, but like, I was just like, I can't do this. Like, I need an epidural, because my whole thing was I don't want an epidural. I was like, I want an epidural. I can't do this. Like, the pain is too bad. Like, it's unbearable.
Right.
And Gary was like, Gary is my boyfriend. He was like, well, you said you didn't want any drugs. Like, you said you don't want to. I said, but that was before they gave me the Pitocin. Like, I don't know what to do. At that point, my mind was just not. I was like, skip it. Give me an epidural. So we were asking the doctor what other drugs I can take. She was like, you can take, you can get epidural, or you can take fentanyl, or there was another drug that she said, and I completely forgot what it was. But I was like, no fentanyl. My boyfriend was like, no fentanyl, no nothing like that, because there was already a case of a woman that had gotten a little too much of the dosage. Her doctor gave her too much. She was pregnant. She passed away. The baby lived, but she passed away. And I was like, no, we're not doing that. So I broke down and got the epidural. My nurse was, I forgot her name, but she was so sweet. Like, she explained everything that was gonna happen. Told me the guy's name that was gonna give me the epidural, and he came in and kind of threw Gary off a little bit because he was like, you gotta go. And Gary was like, excuse me? And he was like, you gotta go. Like, you can't be in here while I administer the epidural. And just the look on Gary's face was like, oh, he's gonna hit you. Sir, you should have said that. You're talking to the wrong person. And so my nurse was like, it's sterilization purposes, COVID. Like, you have to step out. Like, I'll come get you when we're done. So, honestly, the process didn't take long for the epidural. She let me hold her. I had the pillow, and then she let me hold on to her. And she was like, just don't move, because we have to put a needle in your back, and if you move, you can get paralyzed. So that was my motivation not to move.
Right.
So,
especially because they're in your back.
Exactly. So it took like 5 minutes for him to get everything, put it in, and then he was done. Then Gary was able to come back into the room. So then after a while, they had to. So when you have an epidural, everything from your waist below is, you can't feel nothing.
Right.
So they laid me on my side for 2 hours, checked me. I didn't really move that well. I mean, dilate well. For the first 2 hours, I think it bumped up to like 5 centimeters. 5 centimeters. Then, so every 2 hours they flip you over to each side. So the next time they flipped me over, and Gary was helping the nurse flip me over and put the little ball thing between my legs and all that stuff. Because it was just her. It was supposed to be 2 nurses. Don't know where the second nurse was. That's neither here nor there, but very helpful, this nurse. And so by the 3rd time they flipped me, I was like, I feel pressure. And so she checked. She was like, oh, it's time to push. And I literally said, I can't. She said, what do you mean you can't? I was like, I can't push. She's like, you're going to have to. Like, the baby has to come. I can't do this. I really can't. I can't. So she was like, okay, look, we're going to push. He's going to hold your legs. So Gary held one of my legs. I was holding the other one. And she was helping me push. And then she told me to stop. So as soon as I didn't see it, but as soon as they were able to see her head, I was like, does she have hair? And Gary was like,
that was your question?
Are you He was like, that's really what you asked? Right now, that's what you asked right now. I was like, what? I just want to know if she had hair. I was bald when I was a baby, so I want to know if my baby had hair. And he started busting up laughing, and she was like, yeah, she has hair. And so I'm pushing, and I don't think I pushed that long. I honestly think I may have pushed for like 8 to 10 minutes, maybe.
That's not bad.
And so the doctor that was helping me with the drug bags, she wasn't there. So I had a random doctor come in. But my nurse paged my doctor 3 times before she showed up.
Oh, really?
And she almost missed catching the baby. So the nurse was like, you have to stop pushing because the doctor's not here yet. Like, she has to be in here. And I was like, okay, like, all right, cool, whatever. I got an epidural. I can't feel nothing anyway. So, and side note, she said I was an excellent pusher. It's all the squats I did when I was 8 months pregnant. Anyway, I went to the gym a lot when I was pregnant. But so the doctor comes in. She like gowns up, puts the gloves on or whatever, from what I can see. And then she tells me to push. I think I pushed like 2 or 3 times. 2 times. And then she came out. And I was so in shock that I didn't cry. And I feel like, dang, was I a bad mom because I didn't cry? But like, I was in shock. Like, I was just like, hi, baby. And they put her on me all nastied up. And I was just like holding her. And I was like, hi, baby. Oh my gosh, I have a baby. And I just kept saying like, I'm a mom. I'm a mom. And so the nurse was able to get Gary's phone and take pictures of him cutting the umbilical cord and all that good stuff. And then we didn't give her any shots in the hospital because we were like, we're not going to do vaccinations. But we ended up giving her the vitamin K shot for vitamins, and then the gunk that goes in your eyes, that's supposed to be I actually found out that that's supposed to be like if the baby is like susceptible to like, I think it was like syphilis or something like that, like if one of the parents has it, which none of us did, but I didn't know that. They told us that it was for bacteria.
They said yeah,
but it may be both though.
Right,
it may be both.
It could be.
But I was told in a mommy group on Facebook that they actually didn't need that. And they actually didn't need the vitamin K shot because their body produces it after so many weeks or months or whatever. And I was just like, oh, wow. Like, it didn't hurt her.
Right.
But, just things that you find out afterwards is kind of like, oh, okay, well, I know that for next time if, I have a baby again,
Right.
But, so I think the worst part really of... It wasn't even labor delivery was the worst part because the Pitocin was bad, but it was after having her when the epidural was wearing off, my back was like on fire. It felt like someone hit me in the back with a baseball bat. That's how bad it hurt. It felt fine to stand. It felt fine to walk. It felt fine to to stand and walk. If I tried to sit down, it like I couldn't sit down.
Really?
It hurt so bad. So what I mean by that is like they move you from one room to another. They move you from the labor and delivery room to like the recovery room, if you will. So when I tried to sit down to use the restroom after I had Gia, that hurt like crazy. And it wasn't even the vaginal area, it was my back. And then because the epidural was wearing off. And then I was able to sit down in the wheelchair so they can wheel me to the other room. And when I got into that room, when I stood up, I felt fine. And when I walked to the bed to sit down, I couldn't sit down. So I had to stand up for like 5 minutes before I could sit down. And it was just terrible. Like, I was like, dang, is that from me pushing? Because I know like when you push, you get like a bulge like in your back, like naturally, something like that. And I was like, is that from me pushing or is it from the epidural? And I was like, it's got to be from the epidural because it's wearing off.
Did they say?
They didn't tell me. But they gave me, what is the name of that drug? They gave me a drug that's supposed to help with the pain. Narco. They gave me a narco, which was amazing. And after that, I was fine. But I was breastfeeding. My milk came in as soon as I had her. So I was able to breastfeed. And she did fine for the first night. So I had her Monday at 6. She was 7 pounds, 14 ounces, 19 inches. And I had... The breastfeeding part was fine at first. Monday night, I was able to breastfeed. Tuesday morning, she wouldn't eat. I was like, okay, well, maybe she's tired. Maybe she's sleepy. But they had given me another narco. And Gary was tripping the first time they gave it to me because he was like, she's breastfeeding. How are you going to give that to her and she's breastfeeding? Like, that's kind of a hard drug and it's going to get into the baby's system. And they're like, oh, no, she's fine. And in my head, I was like, well, if they're telling me I'm fine, then I'm just going to take it because it hurts. Like, I'm hurting. So Gia would not eat Tuesday. Then she ate a little bit Tuesday and then she just slept a lot. And I was like, okay, well, maybe she's just supposed to sleep. So something happened to where we weren't able to leave Tuesday. We had to leave. We ended up leaving Wednesday because they took a test on her that, like, I guess they had to monitor it for 24 hours before they can release us. So we weren't getting enough sleep because the nurses come in every hour throughout the whole time you're there. So it would be like 2 a.m. and Gia just fell asleep. I just fell asleep. Garrett just fell asleep. And a nurse will come in, checking on us, turning on lights. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I can't. Like, I need my sleep. I'm trying to deal with this baby that I don't even know. She don't know me, I don't know her. We trying to get along. We don't know what's going on. And I'm trying to change her. I'm being a mom and I need my sleep. And I thought that being in the hospital, I would get so much sleep. And that is so wrong. That's not the case at all. Anyway, so Wednesday, we were able to go home, and they had given me another narco before I left, and so they were like, "Oh, you gotta wait an hour before you leave because we gave you another narco." I was like, "Y'all." So finally, when I get home, I get to my parents' house, and I'm telling my sister-in-law, because she came over, and I'm like, she won't eat. Like, I don't know why she won't eat. Now, I had already talked to the lactation specialist in the hospital. She's like, oh, it's the latch. And she gave me the little shield, the little nipple shield. And I was like, it's not working. Like, is it me? And she was like, no, sometimes babies just need a... I said, well, she was latching on perfectly when she came, like, first got here. And I thought it was my fault. And I was like, did I do something wrong? Did she like one breast better than the other? And she was like, working with me. And so at home, I'm just like, she's still not wanting to eat. Like, she ate a little bit, but it had been like 8 hours since she had eaten. And they were like, oh, you can't wait past 2 to 3 hours because their blood sugar will drop and all this stuff. So I'm freaking out.
Right.
So I told my sister-in-law what happened, the drug that they gave me and all that good stuff. And she's like, your baby is drugged. That's why she won't wake up to eat. Like, she's doped up. And I was like, what? And she was like, those aren't good to take while you're breastfeeding because it gets into the baby's system. And she was like, they told you it was okay to take, but you can't drink excessively and breastfeed a baby because it'll get into the baby's system. But what makes them think that you can take a narco every couple hours and it not be in the baby's system? And I was like, what? So she gave her bath. She gave her a bath. Like, we gave her like 2 baths to like wake her up, to like not like shock her because it was warm baths, but like to wake her up. And after, I want to say about 2 hours of us being home and her having a bath and all that stuff, then she finally ate because the narcos were wearing off in her system. And I just felt so bad because I was like, I really drugged my baby on accident and they told me it was okay. And she wouldn't eat. And I was like, thinking it was my fault. You know what I mean? And so after that, like, I gave her to my mom and I went and laid down and I was so exhausted. It felt like I was in a dream. Like, it felt like I was not in reality. Like, it was bad. I laid down in my mom's bed and I was like, Mom, is the bed moving? And she was like, no. And it literally felt like an earthquake was going on when I laid down. That's how exhausted I was. Like, my body started shaking. And she was like, you need to go to sleep. And I legit remember saying, I'm so sleepy that I'm scared to go to sleep because I'm scared I won't wake up. Like, it was that bad. And she was like, well, the baby's okay. I have her just try to go to sleep. So I think I slept for like an hour or so and woke up and I was perfectly fine. But like, it was bad. I don't know why. Like, I understand in the hospital they want to check on you every couple hours, check on the baby every couple hours. But I don't think they realize that you're depriving us of sleep. And so we're not going to function properly, especially if we got to deal with another human being. You know what I mean?
Especially if they're not going to help you.
Exactly. Like, I got the baby all bundled up and you come in there, oh, I need to undo the baby and check the vitals and see if they pooped. No, this is what I have a poop log for. Like, I got this. But I don't know. It was stressful, but it was worth it. And I'm glad I was able to get through it because I definitely said, I don't know how this baby gonna get here, but I'm not pushing her out. Like, I can't do that. Like, I can't. And they're like, like, it's gotta happen. But that was pretty much my labor and delivery story. It was crazy, but now that I look back on it, I think it was kind of funny. Now that I look back on it, like,
because you're past all.
Because I'm past all of it. Exactly. She's
8
months now, so it's kind of like, okay, I don't know if I can do it again because it's still soon, but I know that I can physically push out baby with, no problem. And I didn't tear. That was a good thing too. I was
that's good.
Very happy. I didn't tear. I didn't rip nothing. The doctor was like, "Oh, no stitches." I was like, "Yes." So,
and then because you were so big too.
True.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I thought she was gonna be a big baby.
I thought she was gonna be big too. I was all belly.
I was like, girl,
I was
that's
all
gonna be
belly.
a big baby.
Shoot.
To push out. So that's good that she wasn't as big. I'm sure, like you said, that everybody thought that she was gonna be, and then plus you didn't tear on top of that.
Exactly, because her dad was 10 pounds 5 ounces, and I was 8 pounds 4 ounces, and I was like, oh, this baby finna be huge. I can't do it.
Because your belly was big at the end, and then plus you were overdue, like you were past your due date. Like,
she came at 40 weeks and 6 days.
See?
And the day that I had her was the day that we had scheduled an induction, because the week before my doctor was like, oh, well, if she doesn't come soon, then we'll have we'll induce you on May 11th. And I was like, okay. And I ended up having her myself on May 11th. So
it worked out. May 11th was going to be her birthday anyway.
Exactly, right?
So.
She knew it. She knew it.
She was like, I'm just hold off. The doctor's already said it's going to be on the 11th.
Exactly. So. But I was all belly though. Like, that's the crazy thing. And I hit almost 200 pounds, girl.
Hey, it happens.
Mm-mm. I was like, oh my God, I was so fat. And I was like, you're pregnant.
But you're pregnant.
Yeah.
Girls, believe me, I understand.
Exactly.
I understand. But that's your story's pretty good.
It was stressful, but it was okay. At least my pregnancy wasn't terrible.
Right.
So, yeah.
So did you have a lot of morning sickness?
You know what? Actually, I didn't have morning sickness until the third trimester. I was just really exhausted. That's how I knew something was wrong. Because I was working out and all that good stuff. Actually, Gary had morning sickness in my first trimester, and we didn't know why he wasn't feeling good going to work every morning. And he was like, I'm just popping mints. He was like, I eat a pack of mints like every 2 days. And I was like, I don't know what's wrong with you. Like, you might want to get that checked out.
You're over here fine.
I'm over here fine. Like, okay, I'm just sleepy. So and then afterwards, we found out I was pregnant. I was like, you got my morning sickness. He was like, what the heck? So, yeah, that was crazy.
That's good.
That was crazy.
So that's how, but wait. So what made you figure, like, okay, I better take a test?
I was late, but like my periods never, it was kind of irregular, but like sometimes I'd be late and then start, but like whatever. What made me take the test was I just knew. I don't know. I was like, something's not right. I feel weird. Like the smell of bacon makes me want to throw up. And I was like really overly emotional with everything. I was getting mad. I was crying. And I think I watched a movie that I've seen. I don't remember which movie it was. It was on Netflix. And I had seen that movie several times. And it's always made me mad. What movie? Was it The Butler? No, that just came out. No, it was a movie. I forgot what it was. And I cried. And I was like, hold on. I ain't never cried watching this movie before. What's going on? And so I told him, I was like, I think I need to take pregnancy. No, I'm sorry. I told him, but I told my sister-in-law, I was like, I think I need to take a pregnancy test. And she was like, well, just set up an appointment with the doctor and they'll test you in there. Mm-hmm. And she was like, plus it'll be free. I was like, all right, cool. So I told him, and I told him, I was like, look, I literally was like, my appointment is this day, this time. You need to show up. And he was like, what? And I was like, I need to see if I'm pregnant. He was like, what? So he went with me, and the nurse came in, and I'm sitting there, and she goes, well, congratulations. And I looked at him, and I went, And I just started bawling. And she looked at him with the most disgusted face, like, what did you do to her? And he,
oh, your fault.
And like, he didn't know whether to hug me or like stand back, but he was just like, trying to hug me. And I was like, I don't know what to do. And then she was like, oh, well, there's a pamphlet for, like, she left and then came back and she was like, here's a pamphlet for, like, you know, if you want to terminate the pregnancy. And he said it before I did. He was like, that's not an option. And I was like, we're not doing that. I'm crying. We're not going to do that. Da-da-da. So
I'm
then,
just in shock.
Yeah, I'm in shock because I was just like, bro, what? Like, that's crazy. Never had a pregnancy scare before or never been pregnant before. And I was just like, what the heck? Like, what do I do? Like, what am I supposed to do? So then I called my best friend and I told her, called my sister-in-law and I told her, and she was just like, are you gonna tell mom and dad? And I was like, I don't want to. Right. I was like, I don't want to. I really don't want to. But that'll be a different story. That'll be for another episode because that was whew. But yeah, that's how I knew I was more sleepy because I was going to the gym 3 days out the week and before work. So I was like, why am I so extra tired after I leave the gym? Like, I'm doing the same thing that I've been doing. And when I would go to work, I used to drink a gallon of water a day. And then it got to where I couldn't drink a gallon. I was like, I can't drink water right now. And I was like, what's wrong with me? And then I had my meal preps. And I went to warm up some food at work. And the smell of, it was like, Alfredo sauce or something like that, because I made like, you know, the little zucchini noodles. I made that with some Alfredo sauce, and I literally like I had to go outside the building to throw it away because it made me so nauseous.
So you didn't even eat it?
I didn't even eat it. I couldn't, and to this day it still makes me feel nauseous thinking about the smell.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I can't. It was bad. It was bad. But yeah, that's mine. That's how mine went.
Okay, so obviously you had a vaginal birth.
Yes.
I wanted to have a vaginal birth, but it didn't work out that way. Obviously, God had other plans.
Sometimes it happens.
And so, but same thing. I didn't end up having a baby shower because obviously the pandemic. I know a lot of people were asking me about a baby shower because I wasn't due until September. So Nene was like 4 months ahead of me. So people were asking, and I was me and my husband didn't know because we figured like we'll wait to see where things are gonna go. Like if things are gonna clear up, you know, like later in the year. If so, then we'll have one, this and that. Obviously it didn't because the pandemic is still going on.
Right. Shut down.
And so what happened was people even asked about drive-by and all that stuff, and it was just to the point where it's just like, no, we know what. So the best thing to do is for us just to, if you guys want, we did the same thing, basically sent out like a long text, kind of like a baby shower. It wasn't like a invitation, but it was just kind of like sending out to everybody, like, if you guys would like to bless us, this is where we're registered at. We're not going to have a baby shower due to the pandemic, like for the safety of us and for our baby. We ended up not having a baby shower. So that sucked, you know. So we didn't get to experience it. It's both our first child. So we were actually looking forward to that. We didn't do a gender reveal. We ended up doing just like a video and sent it out to like some friends. But then we personally called people too, like our close friends and family. We called them and did like a video call and told them what we were having, that we were having a boy. So obviously all of that was different because of the pandemic. And then of course my husband ended up missing a lot of appointments. So he missed a lot of appointments, a lot of ultrasounds, like that kind of stuff. My pregnancy obviously was different. I had to go to the doctor a few times because I had some, I don't want to say issues, but I guess you could say it was some issues. Like I ended up spotting, and I didn't know what was going on. And obviously, when you go on Google, it tells you, you know, like the worst thing ever usually.
Don't Google anything.
And so it's just kind of like, obviously, they usually say if you're spotting, that's like usually a signs of it could end up leading up into a miscarriage,
Right.
you know. And so I'm like freaking out, and I'm just kind of like, but it's not as it's explained, like it's not as bad. So I'm like, I need to go get checked. So I went and saw the doctor. He wasn't a good doctor. I wish I went and saw him. He basically just told me the same thing. He was super rough, and he basically told me the same thing, like, oh, when this happens, basically, you just need to relax and rest, and you don't need to do anything. And usually, this is just like early signs of a miscarriage. Who wants to hear that? You know, like, so I'm freaking out. I started taking it easy and everything. Finally, I ended up going back to the doctor. I think it was my next appointment I needed to go to. And I don't think I was around that time. I was only like 3 months, I think. And so I was like 3 or 4 months. And let me take that back. I think I was like 3 months. And so when I went to the doctor, it was a female doctor. Nothing against male doctors. I just know for like my OBs, I prefer a female over a male. That's just my preference.
I had a bad experience with the male OB.
So you know, and that's just so I went and saw the other doctor, and I heard she was really good. And so I went and I let them know what was going on, because the nurse asked if there's any concerns or questions, and I let her know. And so obviously she had to do an exam, and she actually figured out what was going on. And she just was like, oh, you know, there's some polyps. And basically she thought this happens when, it's common in pregnant women. They end up having polyps, and this easy fix. And she told me exactly what she needed to do. And she was like, you're going to have this and this. And she explained, like, don't worry, this is what's going to end up happening. And I guess, you know, I should probably be in detail in case someone's watching this and it ends up happening to someone else. Basically, it's like a polyp that you end up getting, which causes like some spotting. And basically she burned the polyp, basically, and she was like, that should take care of it. You'll see some like grayish discharge. Don't freak out, don't panic, it's the polyp. And I was just like relieved that's what it was, because obviously the other doctor didn't see it. He just automatically said that it was early signs of a miscarriage. So we were good to go with that. I dealt with a lot of round ligament pain, and just like I just always felt real heavy in the lower part of my stomach, and so it was just kind of like I was always sore. So that was that part. So let me see, did it as far as the baby shower. We didn't have the pandemic and all that, so I technically, leading up to my delivery, I technically didn't go into labor, but I guess you could say I did. What ended up happening is it was on a Sunday. Me and my husband left to go pick up an order, just a drive up curbside order, and came straight back home. By the time I got out of the truck, I was having like really bad lower abdominal pain, and it was like down into my legs. And I've had the pain before, but this time it was like stronger. But it was because I actually had bulging disc in my back. So what ended up happening, it was like the pain I would usually feel, instead of it being all in my back, it was like in my front, in my stomach, and in my leg. So I was just thinking, okay, I just need to lay down. Like, let me just go lay down, I'll be fine. I told my husband what was going on. He was like, okay, just rest. Well, the night went on and the pain increased. It actually didn't get any better. And so I was wondering if I needed to go, but obviously we weren't trying to rush to a hospital if I didn't need to go because of the pandemic, you know. But at the same time, I was in a lot of pain. So I kept writing it out. My husband didn't sleep much at all because he kept checking on me, and I kept waking him up too on top of that, but he wasn't even asleep. So he was just kind of checking on me throughout the night. So finally about 4 o'clock in the morning, so it was Monday morning, I ended up like, you know what, this pain is horrible. My legs felt real, real heavy. And I could barely walk. Like, when I say I could barely walk, I really could not walk. My husband had to help me, like, in the middle of the night when I had to get up. He had to help me get up to go to the restroom and all of that. So finally, I was just like, and he kept saying, do we need to go to the hospital? Do we need to go to the hospital? And I was like, no, let me just see if it goes away. So finally, when it was like 4 in the morning, I finally told him, like, you know what? I might need to go. So I called my mom, told her what was going on. My mom's a RN. She's a registered nurse. So I was just letting her know what was going on with me, because I used to just give her updates and stuff. And she told me, like, you need to call them to let them know what's going on, so they can tell you if you need to go in. So I called the helpline, the nurse line, and they basically contacted the hospital, and the hospital told me I needed to go in. So basically I ended up going in. Mind you, I'm literally not able to, like, I'm barely walking. So my husband was trying to tell me, he was like, you know what? He ended up getting one of our office chairs and actually wheeling me from the bedroom to the front of the house in the office chair because I couldn't walk.
Wow.
So he had to put on my shoes, do all that stuff. Thank God we had basically everything packed already, like our hospital bags and everything packed and ready to go. I was 38 weeks and 5 days. And so he ended up even having to wheel me out the front door to the truck in the office chair because I couldn't walk. That's how bad the pain was, and that's how much pain I was in. Like, for every step was like excruciating pain. So he had to help me get into the truck. That took a while for me to get into the truck because I couldn't get my right leg all the way in because that's where all the pain was radiating from. So it was just like, I basically had to push through the pain to get into the truck.
Right.
So we are on our way to the hospital. I contacted my parents, his parents. We let them know what's going on. Get to the hospital. Obviously, he can't go in, but he has to check me in. They have tents. So he had to go over to the tent, let them know that what was going on, get me registered, and then they had transportation come out to the truck to get me. So they had to help me get out the truck and into the wheelchair, and he basically had to wait. So transportation took me up. The lady was super nice that took me up for transportation, and she was talking to me all the way up. When I got up to the floor, there was I don't know if she was the clerk. I'm assuming she may have been the clerk. She may have been one of the nurses, but she may have been the intake clerk. She basically got my information and everything, and obviously my husband was calling. By the time I got to the floor, can I come up already?
Right.
He was like trying to come up to the floor, and she basically was like, no one can come in. She's not admitted yet, so you can't come up yet. So I was by myself too. The lady asked me, can you stand up and walk and go? And I, because I had a mask on, my eyes got real big, and I just shook my head and told her no, and so the transportation person, the lady was like, no, she can barely walk. Like, her husband had to help her get into the wheelchair, out of the truck, into the wheelchair. And so she was like, wherever she needs to go, let me know where she needs to go, and I'll take her. It was fine. So I go, and the lady was just kind of like, okay, I need you to get onto the scale. I need to weigh you. So I'm like, okay. So she's standing there looking at me, and I'm just, in my head, I'm thinking, and I actually told her, I said, I'm going to see if I can actually get out this chair and get onto this wheelchair. Get onto this scale. And mind you, the scale is not that high, but the kind of pain that I was in, that scale was extremely high to me. And so the transportation lady was like, you can hold on to me. Just hold on to me, and I'll help you get onto the scale. And I'm just kind of like, no, it's okay, because she was smaller than me. Yeah. And I didn't want to put all my weight on her. And so she didn't help me, but she encouraged me. And I do not remember her name, but she was just like, you got this, you got this. You go ahead, just take your time. You got this, you got this. The other lady was just standing there in front of me, she had attitude, I was taking so long to get on the scale. So I finally get out of the chair. I finally get onto the scale. And mind you, I have to grab on to the wall to for my balance to actually get onto the scale. Obviously, I'm not really pulling on anything because it's just a wall. And it was by the bathroom, so I kind of grabbed onto the door frame. And so I finally got onto the scale. Okay, she gets my weight, and then she tells me, okay, well, we need a urine sample. She gives me the cup, and I was just kind of like, okay, if I gotta go to the bathroom, I'm gonna need help. I'm in a lot of pain, as you can see. Right. It took me a long time to get on the scale, and this lady told you I can barely walk. Okay, I'll let your triage nurse know. That's exactly how she told me, and walked out the room. So I'm like, okay. So I'm just like, here we go. And so I'm like still in my clothes. I didn't change. She told me I needed to get into the gown. So I'm still walking, getting to the bed, and the nurse comes in. And I actually want to use the restroom before I even change. So she comes in and she was like, yeah, you needed help to go to the restroom? Oh, okay. If you can't go right now, don't even worry about doing that. Just change your clothes and then. But I said I needed assistance to go to the restroom. Mm-hmm. So she leaves out. So I wait. I go ahead and change. I get into the gown, and then she comes back in and I say, actually, I do need to go because I do need to use the restroom, and this extra pressure is not helping the pain that I'm already in.
Been there.
So I'm just like, I need to go.
Right.
I thought, because this is your job and this is what you're paid for, she was going to come and assist me to try to help me get to the restroom. Mm-hmm. The bed, I'm standing at the bed. She's on the other side. She walks to the end of the, basically to the door. I'm at the bed still, and I tell her, and I needed assistance. She knew I needed assistance. She watched me struggle to get to the bathroom. Like, literally stood there and watched me get to, like, struggle. Every step was so painful. And she just watched me. She didn't say, can I help you? Or, hey, let me try to do this. Like, no kind of assistance at all. And so in my head, like, while I'm taking each step, I'm thinking, should I say something to her? Then I'm like, is she not trying to help me because of COVID? But I'm thinking, it don't matter. You work in a hospital. Right. We have masks on. Skip all that's going on because this is a hospital. Right. So my thing is, I'm telling you I need help. Like, this is a fall risk, really.
Right.
She doesn't help me. Basically, she does not help me. She watches me. I finally make it to the bathroom by grabbing on, like, from the bed. I try to grab from the bed thinking, oh, can my arm reach the counter? Mm-hmm. Which it couldn't, because it's like if I grab onto something, it helped me pull myself up. I couldn't, so I had to do it, like, in between steps. So I finally made it to the restroom, was able to go, thank God. Still in pain, still no help. She left out the room. She didn't even wait by the door.
You're lying.
She left out the room.
I couldn't.
And she was just like, okay, if you need help, like, since it's pull this cord, basically, like.
What?
But what are you gonna do? You did not even help me get to the restroom. So what are you gonna do? Okay, fine. I'm like in there. In my head, I'm still thinking COVID's going on. I don't want to touch nothing. Right. I'm in a hospital, but I'm like, I tell myself, actually, you have to, because this is the only way you're able to get from here to here to here. Like, and I'm just like, okay, Lord. I'm just talking to God, like, okay. Finally, I get back to the bed. Basically, that nurse, she wasn't that good of a nurse, period. I ended up having to go to the restroom twice while I was still waiting to see if I was going to get admitted. And so then, by that time, it was shift change. So it was 7 a.m. So it was a new time for a new nurse to come. Obviously, the old nurse didn't come and say she was leaving to introduce the new nurse, none of that. So it was like,
home. That's what that was.
So it was like, which was fine because I'm like, you weren't even helpful anyway.
Right.
The new nurse that replaced her, I think her name was like Kim or Kelly or something, but she was really nice. Mm-hmm. She was actually nice. And I actually started getting real nervous and shaky. Mm-hmm. And I knew I was kind of getting hungry, so I was talking to the nurse, and she asked when was the last time I ate. And I had eaten since the night prior. And then I said, the day prior. And then I said, you know what? I ate something in the middle of the night, but I think it was like crackers or something I told her I ate. And she said, I think your blood sugar is going down, so that's why you're getting like really shaky.
Yeah.
So she was like, I can give you some apple juice, but I can't give you anything to eat. So I'm like, okay. So she gave me like a bunch of apple juice, a thing of water. And so I was down in those apple juices. Like, and so so the whole time I'm still thinking to myself, I'm thinking, if you guys aren't going to help me, let my husband come up here and help me. Like, he knows what's going on. He knows how to assist me. Like, you're not even helping me, and this is what you get paid to do. Mm-hmm. So I was already frustrated. So I'm on and off the phone with my husband, on and off the phone with my mom. I talked to one of my brothers. I'm just kind of frustrated sitting there, and my new nurse comes in and says, oh, you know what? I think your doctor is here. I said, huh? I was like, really? They were like, yeah, I think I heard them say that she's coming in. She's like, let me find out and I'll let you know. So that like changed my whole mood once I knew my doctor was there. And so she comes back, she tells me, yeah, she's here. And she was like, we'll both be back in here once she comes up to the floor. I was so happy. And I was like, the Lord knew. Because I had said when I went to labor that I wanted my doctor to deliver my baby. So, sure enough, my doctor comes in. She speaks to me. We're like, hey, so we talk and all this stuff. So she goes over everything with me from A to Z, basically. Like, okay, she already knew I wanted to have a vaginal birth. I had already told her. I want to try and do it with no epidural.
Right.
I already told her that. I already told my husband. Everybody already knew.
Right.
And so she explained everything to me for vaginal, but she also explained everything to me just in case a C-section needs to happen. And she said she explained both to me just in case an emergency C-section had to be done. She was not trying to explain it in the middle of an emergency. And I appreciated that so much because she was able to address any questions, any concerns, any of that up front. And she wanted to know, okay, who's going to be in here with you? I told her my husband. She was like, okay, go ahead and have him come up. Or like have him, like make sure he's here so he can go ahead and come up. I contacted him. And so once I got admitted, obviously he was able to come up. So I was moving from that room and I was getting moved over to my actual room that I was getting admitted to. And I ended up with 2 nurses.
Okay.
They were awesome.
That's good.
They actually, one of the nurses, she hadn't even seen how bad I was walking yet. And she actually came and got my sandals, put them on top of the footstool. So I just could slide my feet right into my sandals and I didn't have to try to stretch my legs off the bed because any kind of movement, it was painful for me. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't lay down. Me just sitting up still hurt. Like, it was bad. So I told her, ooh, thank you. It was like the simplest thing meant a lot because as much pain as I was in, it was like, oh my goodness. She said, oh, you're welcome. Like, So she's like, okay, just go ahead so we get into the wheelchair. So I kind of gave them a heads up. Okay, I can barely walk, so I'm going to have to take my time. Okay, that's fine. I finally got to the wheelchair. They rolled me down to my room. And so what ended up happening is one of them went ahead to get the room ready. And then the other one got me to the room in the wheelchair, wheeled me to the room. And we passed the restroom in the room. And I was like, oh, you know what? I should have had you stop right here for me. My apology. She said, no, that's fine. So she turned the wheelchair around, took me back to the restroom. And that's when they saw how bad I was walking. I think the girl was so in shock. Like, she stood there and stared at me like she couldn't believe how bad I was walking. Like, how come nobody has done anything? So I finally went to the restroom. It took me the longest time. It seemed like forever. Especially when obviously you're used to just being able to go and move regularly, then all of a sudden it's like you can barely walk. Right. So I get back, I finish, I get into the wheelchair, all that stuff, and she tells her team, the nurse that's working with her, and said, you know what, she needs to be on the bedpan. She can barely walk. She's not even walking good. Like, this is a fall risk. Yeah. Automatically, she knew. So how come this other nurse that I had when I first came into that hospital didn't address that or try to assist me? Because if I would have failed, thank God I did not. Right. But if I would have failed, that would have been on her. Exactly. Like, that would have been a whole nother story, But moving right along, and so I'm in pain. I'm bearing this pain. Daniel is sitting there looking at Daniel's my husband. Daniel's sitting there and he was just looking at me because he's never seen me in that kind of pain before. He's seen me with my back gone down and all that stuff, but he's never seen me in that kind of pain before. Obviously, yes, this is my first pregnancy, so I know people are probably thinking, well, of course, he hasn't seen you in that kind of pain because you're pregnant. This is not like my pregnancy labor pain. It wasn't like I was contracting and this was what was causing it. It was something going on because of the bulging disc I have on my back, and then the issue that's the same thing with my leg. So it's like all triggered in one. Right. So I get into the bed And they have to put the monitor to obviously to monitor DJ to make sure everything's going good, monitor his movement and all that. So they said basically, obviously, when my doctor came in earlier, she said, Rufus, a jump start. We're about to have a baby. We're jump starting your labor. We're going to induce you, all this stuff. She went over everything. So I already knew. So they had to give me Pitocin. Whew. I can't tell you about Pitocin. Because how your body reacted to it and how you reacted to Pitocin, I didn't. And it probably was because I was already in different kind of pain. So it didn't even like increase it to me. It seemed like I was already, my pain level, like no exaggeration, you guys, when I say that my pain level was probably like a 50 plus. That's how bad I was in pain because I slept. So that means I didn't get any sleep. Because the night before I tossed and turned. When I got into the hospital, I couldn't get comfortable at all because I had to make sure that monitor set properly on my stomach so they could monitor DJ, my son, to make sure everything was good with him and his movement. It hurt to sit up. It hurt to lay down. It hurt to do anything. And I couldn't do, and a lot of times I had to get assistance because now my husband was in the room, so I would get assistance from him, or if the nurses were there, they came to assist me. So, and it was, I don't know how long far in, it was probably afternoon.
Yeah.
Probably maybe 12, 1 o'clock maybe by then. And they were just kind of like, my doctor made sure I spoke to the anesthesiologist that was on. So he can go over all the information. Because of my bulging disc, I could not get the epidural. Because with the epidural, because of the length of the needle, it was a chance that it could hit where my bulging disc are at. And they were trying to figure out what level my discs were bulging, where they were bulging at to make sure that he missed it. But I didn't recall. I couldn't recall what level they were at. And then I was trying to figure out, call out of the hospital where I went to the ER for my disc years ago. And then they were going to try and track it down to see if they can get it. So it was like my doctor prepared me for both sides to make sure I was covered, to make sure that the anesthesiologist that was on in case I had to get a C-section that like during the day, he knew what was going on. He came in and talked to me. Everything was good. He was very informative. And he went and said, okay, I'm going to try and figure this out too for you to see if we can get this information from the hospital. Everything was good. Obviously, time went on. My pain didn't get any better. I was like in severe pain, and they knew I was in severe pain. I was already on the bedpan. And I had no sleep. And they were like, my husband was like, Ashley, you need something? They were like, we can give you some fentanyl. I didn't want to take nothing. I wasn't trying to take anything. I was like, no, I'm going to push through. I'm going to bear this pain because I don't want anything to hurt my baby.
Right.
And so granted, yes, I'm in the hospital. Granted, they can just go ahead and get my baby out, like, you know, but that's not the point. And so I bared that pain for like at least another couple of hours, I know for sure. It was a minute. And then finally, my husband was like, Ashley, you need to take, so you probably should take something. Like, you're in so much pain. You've had no sleep. And you're sitting here in pain. Like, I know I cried a couple of times because I was in so much pain. So I'm like, no, I don't want to take nothing. And then I started thinking about it because it was already how long later. So I called my mom, talked to my mom. Can I take this? Can this? They say it's okay and this and that. My mom's like, yeah, it should be fine, especially if they're saying it's fine. And then my mom's trying to explain to me what fentanyl is. And I'm like, okay. And so I'm thinking, because my mom's a nurse, okay, if she's saying it's okay, and she's my mom on top of that. So I'm like, if she's saying it's okay, it's okay. And she was like, well then, and then she always tells me too, whenever I go to the doctor or something else, if you're not sure, then always just double check. Ask them. So I was asking a bunch of questions. So finally I gave in and I did get the fentanyl. There is a small dose. And I think it's because my doctor once again was there. Like, she was monitoring everything, okay? And like on point with what was going on with me. And I'm so grateful to her for that. And so they did that. Finally gave, it's like, okay, fine. Go ahead and give it to me. By the time the medicine kicked in, it wore off. So they did not tell me that it was only going to be good for like 45 minutes. So it was like by the time my body relaxed and I got comfortable, I was back in pain. So I was like, if you guys would have told me this, I would not have taken it. I would have just bared the pain.
Right.
Like, what is this gonna do? So whatever. The pain's back. I'm still like miserable. I'm still in pain. They're still monitoring DJ. Me and my husband are talking as the nurses and doctors are coming in and out the room, and we come to the realization: I should just have a C-section. Like, I'm in so much pain, I probably can't even push. I probably can't have a vaginal delivery. I should probably just have a C-section. We already said, okay, this is the route we probably should go. We asked the nurse about it. And I could tell by her response that they were probably already looking at this, because she was like, then she goes, oh, well, it doesn't look like it's warranted, like a C-section right now. So we're just going to hold off. So just kind of like, okay. Well, what ended up happening is my doctor finally comes in. She's been monitoring me, watching me all throughout the day. She comes to me and tells me what's going on. And basically what ended up happening is when they gave me the Pitocin, they were monitoring like when I had contractions. And plus they checked me. I hadn't dilated at all. She checked me, I think, twice. I think I got checked twice. Maybe 3 times, but I think for sure twice. And I hadn't dilated. I hadn't opened up or anything. And so my doctor comes in and explains what's going on. And she basically said that they would actually need to increase the amount of Pitocin to give me to get the labor going. And she said, based on what she was seeing on the monitor, she did not believe that my son, would be able to handle that.
Okay.
Based on what she saw on the screen. So what ended up happening is my baby's heart rate would drop when I had the contractions, but it would go right back up once the contraction was done. But once the Pitocin was given to me, and because the amount they were going to give to me, what would end up happening is if it did that, his heart rate probably would drop all the way because of the amount.
Yeah.
And she said, we're probably going to be rushing into it, having an emergency C-section in the middle of the night.
Right.
And she said, instead of doing that, I would suggest that you have a C-section. She said, it's completely up to you. I know you want to have a vaginal birth. You can still try it and see how it goes. But if things get crazy, like if it gets worse, basically, I'm going to step in and we're going to have it. And I go, let's do the C-section. And so she was like, okay, like she was ready. She was like, cool. Like, I said, you know what? Me and my husband already talked. Like, we had already decided before you came, like, I needed to have a C-section because of the amount of pain I was in anyway. So we were already prepared for that. She was like, perfect. And so then what ended up happening is she had the other anesthesiologist come in because the other one had left. It was already night shift. So he came in super nice. He found out that they weren't sure if they were going to, since they knew that they couldn't give me the epidural, he didn't know if he could actually do the other one, which is called, I think it's like the spinal block.
Okay.
We weren't sure if we're going to do that or if they're going to have to put me to sleep. If they put me to sleep for the C-section, my husband couldn't be in there when I had my baby. So what ended up happening, he came in, he said, I can actually still do the spinal block for you with no problems. He's because of the size of the needle it's not as big as the epidural needle.
Okay.
So he said, if I ended up hitting where your discs are at, it wouldn't bother you. He's like, obviously I'm going to not try to hit there, but if I ended up hitting it, it'll be fine. Okay, great. So the doctor says, okay, so we asked the doctor, okay, so when's the C-section going to be? She's like, we can do it within the next 30 minutes to an hour. So we call our parents, let them know what's going on. In my head, I'm just like, I just want to get my baby here safely. I didn't think, the process of a C-section, I didn't think C-section was a major surgery. I didn't think, none of that was running through my head at all. I didn't think, oh, Ashley, you about to get cut. None of that was running through my head. So they get me back there. They're like, okay. So I knew I was going to get stuck in my back. So I'm just thinking, okay, it's going to be one shot or whatever. So they get me all set up. I have the pillow in front of me. My nurse is standing in front of me, and she's kind of massaging my shoulders and telling me just to relax. And I'm telling myself, Ashley, don't jump because there's a needle going into your back. Right. Do not jump. So all that's running through my head. And so at the same time too, so I'm like, okay, so the anesthesiologist sticks me in my back. And so I'm thinking, okay, he's done. No. He sticks me again. And so I'm thinking, okay. And I didn't ask how many times.
Right.
And so obviously it felt like he ended up going all the way up my spine. That's how it felt. Obviously he stuck me more than 4 times, more than 5 times, I'm sure. It was several times he stuck me on my spine. I wasn't counting. I just remember thinking, I kept just saying, Jesus, 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 Jesus. And in my head, I was thinking, this is for DJ. This is for DJ. Like, I got to go through this pain for him. Like, okay, it's all worth it. Okay, and I just kept picturing in my head me already out of surgery, out of C-section done in the room with DJ and Daniel. Like, that's it. And so I'm just sitting there, and believe me, the pain was like no other. I can't even lie. I was not expecting that. And it was like a couple of times I ended up getting a burning sensation going down into my left leg. And I think he was more concerned to find out, because I asked him if it's supposed to feel. I remember just screaming, is it supposed to feel like this? It's burning, it's burning. Is it supposed to feel like this? All he wants to know is, what side do you feel it on? Where do you feel it? And so when he would stick me, I told him I just feel it in my back, the pain and the medicine. But when he shot it and it went into my leg, I was only feeling it in my left leg. I did not feel anything in my right leg. So he's finished. I'm numb as I don't know what. Like, I'm super numb. So they lay me down. Everything's good. They get me all set up for my C-section. They have my husband come in. And one thing I can appreciate again, obviously I've already talked to my doctor all day. I've been in contact with her since I've been in the hospital. And she comes back, tells me, hey, Ashley, I'm here. Lets me know she's there. Once again, talks to me, asks me if I have any questions. All of that. And then she lets me know that another doctor's going to be assisting her for my C-section. That doctor actually ended up coming around and introducing herself to me.
Oh, wow.
And I appreciate it. Like, now that I'm sit back, once it was all done with, I was like, man, I really appreciated that. And so she was super nice as well. And then a NICU nurse came over and introduced herself to me and let me know who she was and that she was in the room and all that stuff. And I really appreciate that. I didn't realize that when you have a C-section that they always have a NICU nurse in the room just in case.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that. And so once I hear, I'm thinking, okay, I've been laying here long enough. They should be to where my son's at now. Like, as soon as I thought that, I heard like a kind of like a little, like a gag. And then I kind of stopped, and then I heard a cry. And so me and my husband just looked at each other, and once I heard my son's cry, I just started crying.
Aww.
And so I started crying. I was like, oh my goodness, like, he's here.
Right.
And so he got to go cut the umbilical cord and all that. And he was telling me what my son looked like. And then once they got him, like, kind of cleaned up for the most part, they brought him over and kind of and laid him on my chest. And I was, like, happy to see him. I was like, oh my goodness, my baby, like, my son. Like, I was just, like, in shock too. And then what happened was I started getting this pressure on my chest. So I was just kind of like, I let my son lay there because I was trying to enjoy it.
Yeah.
But then I asked, I don't remember if I asked the nurse was right there, if I asked Daniel to have the nurse come over. And then I asked, could you get him for a second? Like, could you just get him for a second? Because I started having this pressure. And so they're finishing me up. My husband and my son went to the other room, to the recovery room. Once they finished up everything with me, they moved me back to my hospital bed. And then they were wheeling me over into the recovery room. As they were as they were moving me out, my body just started shaking like uncontrollably. And I didn't know what was going on. And I thought because it was super cold in there, and it was like my teeth were chattering, I was shaking. It was like I could not stop. And so it was freaking me out because I didn't know what was going on and why my body was reacting the way it was reacting.
Right.
So what ended up happening was the nurse sees it. There was still a group of nurses there. And so one of the nurses said, oh, it's normal. Just let your body do that. Let it just kind of...
Don't go against it.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking, oh my God. But it was kind of hard not to, you know? And so I told her, I said, can I sit up a little bit? Because I had asked this anesthesiologist while I was still laying down in there. I had him come over to me because he was right behind me. I said, is this normal for me to have this pressure, like this pressure pain, like pressure in my chest? And he told me it is. He's like, once you sit up and all that stuff, like you'll feel better. And so I'm thinking, okay. So I told the nurse once they were wheeling me out, can I raise up a little bit? And she was just kind of like, and this is my other nurse, because now the two night nurses were already gone. Another nurse came on, so she was the one that was in charge when I went for my C-section. She was nice, but you could tell her patience and stuff was not as good or as long as the other nurses. And so she was like, you can say just a little, not much at all. And I'm thinking, I feel pressure.
Right.
Like I can't breathe. That's how bad it felt. So she acted like she wasn't listening. So I told this other nurse that looked like she probably had been there for a long time. And she's the one that was telling me not to go against the shaking, let my body just do what it's doing. And so what she did was she hopped on the phone with my doctor and told my doctor, she's saying she's having pressure in her chest and it's on the left side and she can't breathe. Like it's hard for her to breathe. And so my doctor said something, the nurse was telling her something, and I can hear my doctor say, I'm coming. And my doctor was there in seconds. So she comes to the room to figure out what's going on with me. I tell her what's going on. I asked her if I can. She's like, yeah, you can sit up, right? And she's looking at the nurses like, right? She can sit like, like getting them together. I said she was getting them together, but
she was putting them in check.
Right. And so basically she got me adjusted. Right. Basically. She got me adjusted, and she actually ended up telling me like later on, like when I went for my follow-up visit, that she saw my numbers and it kind of made her concerned because it looked like my heart rate wasn't right. And what she realized is once they had unplugged some cords, and once they plugged everything back in and reconnected it, my heart rate went back to normal. So she was like, that's why she was standing there for a minute analyzing my numbers, because she was thinking, what's going on with her? How come she has this pressure in her chest? And so everything ended up being good, praise God. And so I was like, my husband was looking at me, I was looking at him. I asked where my son was. He was right there. Obviously, he was right there. Right. But it was just like, everything was just happening. I was having this pressure in my chest. I'm trying to recover. My legs were super numb. I couldn't move my legs, so that started to freak me out. I got very anxious.
Yeah.
And that started to freak me out. And that make me panic. And so it was hot in the room. Once I knew my son was good, then I was like, okay, he's good. That's all that matters. Okay, what's going on with me?
Right.
So my husband was even asking like, hey, is this normal? Asking nurses. They explained everything to him as well. I kept telling my nurse, it's hot. I'm hot. I just need cool air, and I feel like that would just help me. She was like, I'm almost done. I knew she wasn't almost done because she had a bunch of paperwork to do and had to do different bags and pay medication and all that stuff. So I knew she wasn't done. Anyway, the NICU nurse, who's a black nurse, she comes over and says, hey, do you want me to get you some cold towels, so you can actually put it on you? And I said, yes, please. So she brought me some cold towels, and I put one on my forehead, one on my neck. I even kind of rotated them. With one even on my leg, just to cool down, and that actually helped. And so basically I ended up coming out the recovery room. We ended up getting moved over to the other part, for the postpartum part, I guess, the other side of the hospital. And so we went through all that. Nurses were still in and out, but I felt like my nurses that I got after that, they were not the greatest. They were not, because I was supposed to breathe into that little thing where you put your air in and the ball pops up. And obviously I've seen it, over the years and all that stuff. And I knew what it was for. But the nurses, kind of explained it real quick, and then that was it.
So what was it for?
So what would happen is supposed to make sure you give breaths. I guess to make sure what do you call it? When you breathe into it, you're supposed to see how much you can your breath can make the ball go up. I guess the ball's supposed to reach so far, because I had just came out of surgery. Gotcha. So it's supposed to make sure that you're still breathing and guess get all the air out. They said, or something like that. But the way the nurse came in and explained it, it was if I didn't know what this was supposed to be doing, I would have just been sitting there. I didn't even, to be honest with you, I didn't use it. I should have used it, but I didn't use it. I was super tired. I was still freaking out and trying to feeling back into my legs. I was my anxiety was probably real crazy at that time. And so she didn't even tell me I needed to use a pillow or anything to put across my stomach when I coughed, laughed, or did any of that.
Wow.
I knew that because when I had surgery, my appendix out when I was like 9 years old, and just like I said, just because my mom's a nurse, my aunt's a doctor, like just different stuff like that, like just kind of being familiar with the medical field stuff, and then taking care of my mom when she's had her surgeries before, I knew what needed to be done. I knew I needed to put the pillow over my stomach.
Right.
So I was doing that myself. The nurses gave me none of that information. They checked my stomach to make sure I didn't have any excessive bleeding. It seemed like I just came out of surgery, so every push hurt.
Right.
But every nurse was like, "Oh my goodness, your incision looks amazing. Who did your surgery?" I said, "Oh, my doctor did." I was all bragging like my doctor did my surgery. And it made they made it seem like they had never seen the incision so clean before.
Right.
What ends up happening, we ended up staying there for like 4 days. It was an experience. We've had a couple of nurses that had some nasty attitudes. Nurse that try to talk to you like you're stupid. Just kind of like when you're trying to tell them, you're trying to give me another pain medication that I'm telling you I'm no longer taking, and this IV can come out because that's what the previous nurse, and I'm going home.
Right.
And like, how many hours is already the next day? Like, I'm going to be going home. So they already put me on. They actually gave me Norco too. But so I'm like, what's going on? They gave me these logs to log the diapers and the feeding and all that. Didn't really go over thoroughly with me. Didn't go over with my husband. Obviously, they knew we were first-time parents. The nurses weren't really helpful. Like when my husband had questions about changing diapers and stuff, like it was hard for me to even. The pain went away once I had shaved. The pain went away that I was having. But when I stood up to walk, I still had that pain in my leg. So it still caused me extra pain from not only my C-section, but the pain that I was already having in my leg. That was still there. So I was still moving really slow. I was obviously in a lot of pain. So Daniel was doing the feeding, I was breastfeeding, but doing the diaper changes and stuff. Because it hurt so bad for me to stand up for like period or to even walk. But the nurse was like barely helped him, show him how to do a diaper change or try to help him with that. The nurses don't help you with showers. They don't offer you like anything to be like, oh, do you need this so you can brush your teeth, or do you need the washcloth? None of that. And I'm like,
being your hospital bag.
I'm like, right. And I'm like, back in the day, I remember nurses used to give that kind of stuff, like the little U-shaped little thing. They used to give that to patients to brush their teeth and stuff like that, or like help like with give them washcloths to wash their face. And I'm like, you're expecting somebody to take a shower here that just had a C-section, even if it was a vaginal delivery, but to take a shower here with no assistance, and you telling me I couldn't get my incision wet? How am I going to do that? And I'm barely walking still. Yeah. So it was like the nurses weren't that, they weren't that great. And so we ended up going, we stayed 4 days. My husband couldn't leave either. He was the only one that could be there, but they did allow us to have people drop food off in the lobby.
We didn't even get that.
They let people
ate hospital food for 4 days. He did.
Well, he didn't get. Oh, yes, he did. Because when they brought my food, they brought his food. And Daniel, I'm like picky about my food too. So some of that stuff was just like, no, I tried it. And Daniel ate it, and he was just like, taste it. It tastes pretty. It tastes okay. Like it tastes pretty. Obviously, because we don't have nothing else to eat.
Right.
He tried to convince me to eat, and I'm like, no. He was like, I know, but I'm just trying to get you to eat some food. And so we were actually able to get people to bring food to us.
I wish, man.
One of our cousins brought food. Shout out to Kenny and to Ashanti. They ended up bringing food up there for us. My in-laws brought food for us. Did somebody else drop something off for us? They just brought it to the lobby, told them what room, and they actually brought it up to us. Like
they didn't even give us that option.
They let us get food, so that was the only way we got outside food. For that, like, but it was like, so that's my overall experience. I know it's like our experiences. That's why I said
completely different.
It's completely different in the intro because she had a vaginal delivery. I had a C-section, and I know our stories are kind of long, but it's kind of like everybody's experiences are different. And so
even first and second pregnancy
it's going to be different.
It's gonna be different.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not going to be the same at all. So you're going to have either some of the same questions, different questions.
Right.
So it's always good to ask questions, or it's always good to hear or watch these kind of videos or listen to these kind of podcasts, because you get information that you didn't even know. Like,
exactly.
It's just, or what to expect, I should say.
I didn't know that when you breastfeed, you're still contracting. That mess hurts so bad.
Okay, so is this bad? Because everything was like really a blur. Like, obviously,
you don't remember
everything. So I think because I was already in so much pain with my C-section, I just figured, oh, it's just whatever. And I think because I was in so much pain prior to having DJ, that any other pain that came after that, it was just kind of like whatever.
No, I remember sitting there feeding her the first time, and they're like, "Oh, you're gonna bleed. You're going to contract when you breastfeed, and it's gonna make you bleed more."
They didn't tell me that.
And I was like, "Oh, like, it's gonna contract. Like, it's gonna be like little contractions." Girl, no. It felt like I was going through contractions again, but like right before I had her. That's how bad they hurt.
See?
And I was like, I need to breastfeed. I'm not bottled, like, I'm not giving her formula. I need to breastfeed. So I just got to get through it. And I'm sitting there holding her, because I held her like a football. So I was sitting there holding her, and I can just feel the contraction. Just like, it hurts so bad.
I think I know I had it. I know I had the contraction, because I remember telling Daniel my stomach hurt, but I just thought it was from the C-section. Like, they didn't explain none of that to me.
Right.
I think I was more like, that pain is gone.
Yeah.
My son is here safely. And oh my goodness, I just had a whole C-section. And they kept telling me, you just had major surgery, so you have to be careful. You just had major surgery.
Right.
And I'm thinking, what? And so actually the one lady told me, oh, when you have a C-section, they actually take your uterus out and clean it and do all this stuff. And they explain all this stuff to me. And I'm like, what? Like,
you took an organ out?
And so then I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I really did just have major surgery. Like, it didn't start hitting me until like the following day, like after, and it was like I had to be on a catheter, all that kind of stuff. So that's another reason why I couldn't get up to actually do diaper changes and all that stuff. It's like, so it's a lot, especially that's why I said you can never plan. You can think how your pregnancy is going to be, because me and my husband started watching videos like, okay, how we're going to do the breathing.
I was told not to watch videos.
Well, I did the breathing. You were watching like labor and
delivery videos.
I didn't want to see no labor and delivery videos before I went to labor, because I'm like, it's going to scare me. Like,
and it scared me. I'm not going to lie. That's why I said I couldn't push. And I needed to.
See, that's why we didn't watch any. Because I was like, nah, I'm not going to watch any of that, because it's going to freak me out. Yeah. And I'm like, let me just watch the breathing. Like, do like little YouTube Lamaze stuff. Because we didn't get to go to Lamaze class. So we're all practicing that. And didn't even come in handy, because I ended up having to have a C-section. But you know what? This is going to end up being like a whole nother topic. I know it is. And our goal was to only have, like we said, our goal was going to have our podcast to be like an hour long for each podcast. And obviously this one went over because we were talking about our labors and deliveries. But another topic we're going to end up talking about is going to be kind of how, everything that was going on, because I had never experienced everything that went on in 2020 besides the pandemic.
Right.
As far as like the racial profiling and the racism and all of that, and how so much stuff came out about Black women in birth and pregnancy,
right?
And, giving birth, and how it's put out there that Black women can just basically endure pain, or
can endure more pain than the average person, if you will. That's crazy.
So when we pointed out, like, and yes, my OB, yes, she is Black.
And then I had a Black OB at one point. The original person I had did not. She was not able to be at the hospital. So then I saw the Black OB that I saw. Mm-hmm. But the person that actually delivered Gia, she was a person of color, but she wasn't Black.
Oh, okay. And so then in the NICU, that's why I pointed out that the NICU nurse, she was Black as well. Mm-hmm. If you listen to the story, basically, the two main people that were actually concerned, and only granted, the two nurses or three nurses that I had that were actually really good, they were not African American, and I don't think they were even of color. I think they may have been Caucasian. They were actually really nice, but when it came to like serious stuff, like as far as my doctor coming to check on me and my doctor, I kind of feel deep down inside that if another doctor was on call, I don't know if the doctor would have actually induced me. Because I don't know what the outcome would have been as far as like if the doctor would just sit me home, or how they would have monitored it, or what they would have thought, because they didn't know. My doctor knew I had bulging discs. I had made sure I told her, so she was aware. So she was already on her A game. Like, I'm sure I'm sure she's always on her A game. But I mean, when she came in and it was me, after being her patient, she knows what's going on with me. I think she already knew, okay, this is what we're going to have to figure out. But it's just kind of like, I feel just experiencing what I experienced with that lady not helping me go to the bathroom, and I'm telling her I'm in the kind of pain that I'm in. That kind of made me feel like once it was all said and done and I was able to reflect on my hospital stay, I'm like, did she just really feel like, oh, she can handle it?
Right.
Did they really, did this and this happen because I am black? Like, it kind of made me
you don't want to think that, but in reality, that's
because there's been so much stuff that's going on, you know. But that's kind of why we kind of pointed out to like certain areas where we said this person was black or this person was. But it's just kind of like the experiences you end up going through. But I like I tell people, and like I even told you when I kind of told you my story about my delivery, I knew God was all up and through there, right? Like, for sure. And when I first came home and I would tell people the story, like my parents, my in-laws, I actually just cried. Like, it took me a minute to like not cry about my delivery story. Like, it was just like, after, I think because it was just still so fresh, and then to realize like how I was kind of treated once you think about it. It was kind of like, dang, like, I really could have failed. Or dang, she really wasn't trying to help me. Oh, and that same nurse ended up being in the operating room when I had my C-section. And we both looked at each other, and I think I was so like in the zone, I just spoke to her and was like, oh, hey, you're still here. You wasn't realizing. And then I was like, oh, wait, it's a shift change again. It's nighttime. And then it didn't dawn on me that it was her until after the fact. And she gave me this look like oh my goodness, like you're really about to have this baby. It was kind of like a more shock, like, yeah, we're about to have a baby, like delivering a baby type thing. And it was just kind of like, yeah, remember 12 hours ago? when I had to use the bathroom and you were staring at me, looking at me like I was crazy. But you know, everybody's experience is going to be different when you go to the hospital. Your pregnancy, everything's going to be different. The pandemic is still going on. So if you're pregnant right now going through this, it's a lot. It's a lot. I think some of the things have actually gotten better, because I know Gary's cousin ended up having a baby like months after us, and they were able to leave and go get food and stuff like that. Granted, Kern County? Yes. Oh. Granted, I do think that they can still only have one person in the room. But they were able to go get food. And I was like, oh, we can do that. We was at the same hospital. When did this change? Like, I'm confused. But you were able to have people deliver, and I wasn't, so I guess little by little. Yeah, but the food was not great. But the pandemic is still going on. Granted, I'm still like not going many places. I'm still like being very cautious. I gotta go to work. Like, I'm really even cautious with family, to be honest with you. Like, very few people have held my son. She knows that I am. Like, I know. I'm very like. Yeah, like, I want to participate. I want to hang out with my family. I want to hang out with friends. But at the same time, too, I have to make sure I keep my baby safe. And to do that, I have to make sure I'm safe. So me and my husband are very limited on stuff. My husband may do a couple, like, go out a little bit more than I do, as far as, like, obviously he'll go to the store more than I do, or go run errands, or may go do a visit real quick more than I would. But he's still not doing as much as either, because we're keeping limits on that. And to each his own.
Right.
I'm not judging anybody else that does that, but it's just like people know when they come into my space, it's just kind of more like, okay, Ashley's very strict on this. Like, is it cool with this? Is it cool with that? And I appreciate that. Like, I really appreciate that. Just like if somebody else prefers to do X, Y, and Z, like to be like, oh, well, I don't mind because that's their preference. You know what I mean? But this is just how I am and how me and my family roll as far as what's going on right now with the pandemic. So I really pray and really hope that everybody just stays safe,
healthy,
stay healthy for sure, and to make sure that you guys do what's best for you. You know.
Take your vitamins.
That too.
Take your vitamins.
You take your vitamins. Don't skip that.
Everyone was so worried about getting hand sanitizer and toilet paper, but nobody was talking about, and masks. No one was talking about taking vitamins. Take your vitamins. And especially if you are a mom, you're pregnant, take your prenatals. It don't matter if you take them at night, in the morning. Take them because it's not for you.
It's for the baby.
It's for the baby. And whatever other vitamins you got to take them because it's for the baby. It's not for you. Especially during this time.
For sure. So if you have any questions, please put comments, put questions, any questions that you may have, put them down there. We'll respond. Like I said, even if we don't have the answer, maybe we want someone else that sees it will be able to answer the question for you.
Yes.
Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Go follow our Instagram and Twitter.
Yes, please.
And
just contact us. Oh, and our email as well. If you want to send in your stories,
we'll read them.
We will read them.
We won't say your name. We won't say names. Everybody will be anonymous.
Right.
But send in your stories, labor, delivery, pregnancy, whatever. And we'll read them for you. And our email is mommy.mentions@gmail.com. Our Instagram is mommy.mentions. And our Twitter is mommymentions. No dot.
Those are all of our social media handles. I can't even talk right now. But like I said, I know our podcast went over. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys actually did listen to it. Even if you're watching it on YouTube, I hope you guys actually listened to it, pulled it up. I hope this video was informational. This podcast was informational for you guys. But these are our stories. I'm sure we can go on, and I'm sure there's some things we missed, but this is just our experiences, our stories. And believe me, we're going to get into more stuff as our podcast goes on. So make sure you follow us, support us. We appreciate the support.
Yes.
We appreciate the follow. This is some new merch that we're going to be having as well.
Mommy over everything.
Right. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Mom life is all about. So this is just something else that we're going to be coming out with as well. We're going to end up doing some giveaways down the line, so keep a lookout for that. So that's why it's good to follow us, okay? I know we keep saying follow us, subscribe, but for sure do that because you never know what we'll end up doing.
Yes. And share.
Please
share on every platform.
For sure. Even if, you know what? Even if people do not have social media, on the YouTube channels, even what I do is I actually send it out via text so people can actually pull it up.
Oh, that works.
And I noticed that people actually will resend it again if it's a YouTube, because it's YouTube. People can always pull up YouTube. They'll pull it up and watch it. And because it's in text, they can just click it, open it, and go to it.
Right.
But hey, if you're watching it, subscribe to us. Why not? You know,
it takes like half a second. Just click the little button.
But once again, I'm Ashley.
And I'm Janice.
And we are Mommy Mentions. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
We're out.
Peace.